Yo, it's J Mai back with another video. Want to talk about the Nate Diaz Jorge Masvidal fight last night for the BMF title. Um, the fight itself was good. It was pretty one-sided, to be honest, man. Jorge was putting it on Nate. First of all, go back to even when they came in. Jorge looked good as he looked. He looked as in fit and as in shape and as ripped and together as he's ever looked. And Nate looked a little soft, man. He looked as soft as I've ever seen Nate Diaz. I was looking at the love handles of him when he was going in the round. Like, man, Nate looked soft. He definitely didn't look like he did in the Michael Johnson fight. I was looking forward to seeing that Nate, but he didn't show up. Soft Nate came in and he said something in the press conference that he had torn up his knee and he couldn't run for the last 3 weeks. And I mean, that can make you put on a little weight, but it didn't seem like he was in the best shape. Maybe that had something to do with it. No excuses though. But moving on, the fight itself again was pretty one-sided. Jorge was just putting it on Nate. He was hitting him with vicious shots, man. Vicious kicks to the body. His accuracy, he was stunning. He stunned Nate Diaz more times than I could count. Dropped him several times. Kept hitting him. Wobbled Nate quite a few times. After the first round, man, Nate usually is pushing forward, stepping forward, and putting on the pressure, no matter who he's fighting. Even when he got torn up by McGregor in the first fight, man, he still kept coming forward, putting out the pressure. But Nate was on the back foot, man. Nate was obviously worried about Jorge's punching after that. So he's a very tentative fighter, man. Nate said something too about not being able to run, not scared that he wouldn't be able to push it 5 rounds as well, but so that he didn't apply the pressure he usually applies, which makes sense. But at the same time, it was a bad beating. You know, Nate was smart though. When he got dropped, he went to the ground. He took time to recover. He made it through. He's a smart fighter in doing that's a smart technique that he does. But it was really, really one-sided, man. Nate got off on him a couple times. He hit him with a few good shots, like a few good combinations. But in the most part, even in the clinch where Nate usually does real well with those little pat, pushing you against the fence things, Jorge seemed to be the stronger fighter in the clinch. But at some point in that clinch, Jorge hit him with a big elbow and cut him pretty bad. I mean, it was a bad cut. I don't know if it was bad enough to stop the fight, but it was a bad cut. And but Nate Diaz has a lot of scar tissue on his face, and he bleeds in every fight that he's in. So anyway, it goes on. They get ready for the fourth round. In the scrambles, Nate almost got a heel hook, but that's about the best he did on the scrambles. Jorge's an underrated grappler, man. He really grappled well on the ground. And Nate reversed the position. Jorge took it right back. Jorge took top position several times. Nate was trying to work a triangle at one point, but Jorge was smart to that and was landing some good ground and pound. But they come out getting ready for the fourth round. It looked to me at the end of the third that Jorge was slowing down a little bit. Nate was on the bottom, and he was hitting Jorge with some hammer fists from the bottom. He was hitting him with some pretty good hammer fists, actually. He hit him with a good 6 or 7 times from the bottom, clean with those hammer fists, and Jorge wasn't moving. He was just eating them, which I was surprised because Jorge had been doing so well on top until that point. So it seems to me he was starting to slow down there. When you came out for the fourth round, you could see the look on Jorge's face like, daggone, this dude's still here. He shouldn't be here. And Jorge had thrown a lot of hard shots, a lot of hard kicks, a lot of explosive movements. I think he was definitely slowing down. I think he was the tired of the two. You looked over at Nate, and Nate was jumping up and down and hopping around and slapping himself on the face, and he was shaking his head. He looked ready to go. I think he knew that Jorge was slowing down a little bit. He was getting a little bit of his confidence back in that fight. Would that have helped anything? We don't know. We just don't know. But doctor comes out there, takes a look, and Nate shrugs him off, says, I'm good. And then the doctor calls the fight off for the cut. So was it the right call? I mean, I'm not a doctor, first of all. I can't say if it's the right call or not because I'm not a doctor. I can't look at his eye and say what kind of permanent damage that's going to cause him. From my view, I've seen worse cuts. We looked at the Tyson Fury fight with that cut, seemed way worse, and that doctor allowed it to go on. If it's just scar tissue and just opening up, And it was kind of to the side, too. It was on top of his eye, but it was on the side. So, I mean, some blood was getting in his eyes, but a lot of it was draining down the side of his face. But it was bugging him a little bit. But I think the fight could have continued. I think it could have kept on going. But I can't, again, I'm not a doctor. But, you know, it was kind of a disadvantage to Nate because Nate was, you know, that's where he wins fights, is with his pace, is with his cardio. And I don't know if he was going to be knocking out Jorge Masvidal or submitting him at that point, though. I don't really see it happening. So I really don't know if it would have changed anything. Nate might have won those last 2 rounds, but even if he won those last 2 rounds, he lost those other rounds, several of them 10-8. So he wasn't going to win that fight, I don't think. But, you know, the other thing I thought about when the doctor was watching that fight is, man, Nate took a lot of, I mean, he got dropped several, I mean, what? How many? I can't even tell you how many times he got dropped, like 2 or 3 times, maybe more. And he got staggered like another 3 or 4 times, where he lost his foot and went on Bambi legs for a second, man. And he was backing up from the body kicks, too. He was getting kicked in the body, and he was backing up, and he was moving away and keeping his back to the cage. When have we ever seen Nate Diaz with his back to the cage? So those kicks hurt him. Jorge was just, he was explosive, and he was fast, but I don't think Nate was going to win that fight. But I wonder if the doctor saw all those drops, all those staggers, and thought, man, this guy with a cut this bad, he's probably concussed. Let's stop this fight. So we just don't know. What I do know is that we're not going to see the same Nate Diaz again, ever. It's not going to happen. Nate showed last night that his chin is starting to deteriorate. From the first McGregor fight, he took some really hard shots, but McGregor just ate him. They didn't even stun him. They didn't phase him. Got cut the same way, and he ended up finishing that fight. Now, in the second McGregor fight, McGregor dropped him 3 times, and then we know Conor's power goes away, though. Conor's power drops as the fight goes on, because Conor kept hitting him with shots, but his power dropped, so it didn't phase him. But early in that fight, when Conor was clean and hitting him hard, Nate was dropping. So we could see there, from the first fight to the second Conor fight, there was some deterioration. Tonight, he got dropped pretty easily and staggered pretty easily. I mean, there were some hard shots, but I don't even know if Jorge Masvidal hits as hard as Conor McGregor does. He probably doesn't. Though Jorge hit him with some clean, hard shots, but I've never seen Jorge Masvidal as a power striker, really. I mean, if you catch anybody on the chin, they can go down there. He caught Darren Till, but Till is chinny, man. We see what he gets hit hard, man. Woodley hit him one good time and it dropped him. One hard time from Jorge and he was done. He was dropped. So I don't think the Till is the one to look at the power. If he has gotten more power, Jorge looks faster, more explosive, and more powerful than he has, and I've been watching him since Strikeforce. So that leads me to believe, and be a hater on this or not, that Jorge's on that stuff. He's on something, because he's older now. I remember seeing him fight in his prime at 27 years old in Strikeforce, and not being half as explosive or powerful or as fast as he is now. He's gotten way faster, way more explosive, way more powerful, and that just doesn't happen as you get older. It doesn't happen, man, especially more powerful. Usually you carry your power where you carry it. Maybe you have it a little bit more at 170 than 155. I can see that, but there's a good chance Jorge's on that stuff. So, you know, Nate, on the other hand, popped by USADA, but, you know, that dude didn't look like he was on nothing. He looks like he was on Doritos and French fries, for real. But, getting back to this, though, Nate, we're not going to see the same Nate again. His chin's deteriorating. He's slowing down, too. His pace wasn't as good, and he can't take those shots. He's taken so many of them for so long. You just can't do it forever. We saw that with Robert Whittaker now. Robert Whittaker's done. He's done. His chin is gone. It's gone. I was worried about that the last time he fought Izzy. I said, if Whittaker's chin holds up, he wins this fight. If his chin's gone, it's done. And his chin's gone, so he's done. And I think Nate's done now, too. So where does Nate go from here? I think Nate needs to find one more fight, make a big payday. If I was him, I would push for McGregor 3. That might be a fight that Conor actually comes out and freaking takes, because he promised to give Nate that rematch. And I don't see McGregor pulling out that on that if Nate really starts hitting Conor up for that fight. I think Conor will give him that fight at some point. So if I was Nate, I'd just sit out, try to get that trilogy fight with Conor. Conor doesn't hit quite as hard, especially, I mean, if they have it at 170 again, he gets money for that fight. And even if he loses to McGregor, then, well, for McGregor, that would be a good thing because he knows that's a win he can get. He knows that that'll put him back in some kind of contention if they do it at 155. But for Nate, at least if he loses that fight, he's going to get a good payday and then retire. I don't think he has 2 fights left. He might, but if he has 2 fights left, we're going to see him get hurt bad in those 2 fights. If he has 1 more fight, we're going to see him get hurt bad. We saw him get hurt bad last night. We saw him get hurt bad in the second McGregor fight. So he's done, man. He's done. I mean, these guys just can't last forever, no matter how tough they are or how granite their chins are. Look, remember Chuck Liddell. Chuck Liddell used to let people hit him. He used to get off on people hit him because he could take anybody's shot, and then he would take one to trade back and knock them out cold. But then one day when Chuck's chin went, it went, and then it was 4 or 5 knockouts in a row that he just ate canvas, and then he took like 15 years off and got dumped by a Tito Ortiz jab of all things. When the chin's gone, the chin's gone. And you can't really recover it. I think that may be why Nate took 3 years off, because he knew that his chin was going to hurt, that he was probably concussed, and that he needed to try to heal that chin some. But you know, it might have caught him. It might have gave him those last 2 fights that he took, as opposed to just 1 more fight. Because after the McGregor fight, if he had taken 1 more soon after that, he might have been cooked right then. But at least he got 2 more, and maybe he can stretch out 1 more fight. So. And Jorge's now a title contender. I guess Colby and Usman are supposed to fight, but those 2 guys pull out and get injured more than anybody I've ever seen. And who really cares at this point? They're not even. That's why they made this BMF title, because nobody's even excited in Colby or Usman, man. They don't draw any draws. They don't bring anybody in, and they're boring fighters for the most part. They do the same thing. They push you up against the cage. They grind you. They take you down. They lay on you. They land little pity-pat, ground and pound. But you know, they're dominating wrestlers, man. But nobody enjoys that anymore, man. Nobody's ever really enjoyed that. Now, somebody who mixes it all together, but I mean, that's a way to win fights. That's how George St. Pierre won all his fights. George was not an exciting fighter. He was early on, but after he learned his wrestling enough and learned that he could win fights just by laying on people and just wrestle effing them to death, then that's how he won his fights, man. So. A lot of people have learned that style, and it's effective. It's very effective. It's just not pleasurable to watch, man. You know. Now, sometimes if it's 2 high-level grapplers, it can get interesting. You know, it's more interesting though if those high-level grapplers have some type of submissions. But Colby and Usman, neither one of them are rocking submissions, man. They're just lay and pray fighters, to be honest. And nobody wants to see that. So that's why they made this title to begin with, because it was excitement in the welterweight division. You know, that's why they put Stephen Thompson versus Luque on a card last night too, because both of those guys are exciting. That's why Perry fought Luque, because even as Perry is as one-dimensional as Perry seems to be, man. I mean, he's still a good fighter. Probably whip my tail for sure, but I'm saying he's an exciting fighter though. He brings excitement to a fight. You know, besides. You know, so what do they do with Jorge? I mean, I guess he can wait for a title. He might shift up above Colby. They might push him above Colby for an Usman fight, but I don't think that Jorge can win that fight. He's got probably a better chance versus Colby than he does versus Usman. Usman's a good bit bigger, but Jorge can wrestle. We underestimate his grappling, and Damian Maia couldn't finish Jorge on the ground. And in fact, he said he was the best BJJ fighter and wrestler that he'd ever fought. So. We just don't know till we see it, but I would definitely give Usman the lay and pray factor over him, just because he's so strong and he's big, man. He's a big welterweight. He's short, but he's compact. Tyron was a big welterweight, and look how small he made Tyron look. So, anyway, if you got any thoughts, comments, concerns, leave them below. Any opinions? Curious to hear what you think should happen. What both happens from here for both Jorge and Diaz. Anyway, peace out. God bless.